Hey everyone, welcome to our Federalist Women chat about Harry and Meghan and their Oprah interview that aired last night. I'm here with the wonderful Britt McHenry and Madeline Osborne, and we're really fired up. We have a lot to say, even though, again, I claimed that Meghan Markle was boring in a piece that I wrote this morning, which I maintain, but there is some stuff to talk about here. Britt, what was your reaction to the interview after watching it last night? It was on CBS. It was pretty long. It was with Oprah, who was a guest at their wedding, by the way. How did this, what chord did this strike with you?
I guess at their wedding without ever, I believe, meeting Meghan Markle at that point, as Amal Clooney and several of the other celebrities. But my reaction was, first of all, I didn't think I wanted to watch, even though I'm addicted to royals, everything. I didn't know if I wanted to watch because I anticipated 2 hours of, quite frankly, whining, which you could make an argument there was a lot of. And I thought Oprah would go way too soft on them. I came away with it actually relatively pleased with Oprah's questioning. I thought initially, why did Meghan not receive any questions about her family? Because that's been a huge story. Hey,
Molly Hemingway is joining us.
I'm just here for a few minutes, but go on.
Okay,
why was she not asked about her father, the legal battle with the Daily Mail? Apparently some of those clips were used on CBS this morning, but I was bummed to not hear that. And all I gotta say, my biggest takeaway, besides the explosive racist claims that both she and Harry made, were like, Kate Middleton is never inviting her over for tea and crumpets. Like that is she took a big shot at the end of the day. Kate Middleton, for that style of living in the UK, is going to be the future queen. And I was kind of amazed at a little bit of the pettiness there. Am I wrong in saying that? I thought the Kate Middleton stuff was different.
I thought it was unnecessarily so.
I was shocked that she had held that grudge for so long, because how long have they been? When was that wedding? Like 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
2018.
And she was acting as if telling Oprah, like, oh yeah, making it, downplaying it, trying to make it sound like they're fine now. But the fact that she clearly brought up this headline that she wanted to dispel 3 years later, clearly she's still up. There's a little salty.
Molly, how long have you held grudges in your life?
Oh, I hold grudges for a very long period. Meghan Markle has nothing on me. I have a 250-year-old grudge against the British royal family.
Well, what did you think about the interview, Molly?
I didn't watch it.
Okay.
I didn't watch it. I'm not into it. I did follow on Twitter what people were saying, and I thought that it was just like ridiculous. I don't know. I have these mixed feelings. Like, I really like the Queen, even though I don't like the royal family. And I kind of want the Queen to make these people pay for not understanding that the only job of a royal is to like practice your duty and your discretion and your restraint. Like this, they're failing at the one job they have.
Yeah.
What do you think about Molly's point, Britt? Because I think that's sort of also kind of what that seemed to be at like the heart of some of your complaints about this too.
Yeah, it was like a different kind of Super Bowl night for anybody that was watching this. I had a couple of my friends post, like 17 million people around the world watched it. So we knew it was going to be drama. I agree with Molly. And I think that no matter how much you feel wronged, I just kept like having this undertone last night of, you're saying you're such victims and Charles cut you off. That was another explosive claim, right? That Prince Harry's father cut them off. But like Diana's trust has more than $20 million in it. You allegedly bought a $14 million home. Like, your problems are not the problems of everyday people in this pandemic. Am I wrong in thinking that? Like, I felt like they just kept saying they were victims when in large part, the royal household is what made them sitting down and having that interview. You claim you want privacy, but you're spilling all the details of your family in a 2-hour interview with Oprah. I don't know.
Guys, did you believe, like, okay, so I saw the claims made that she didn't know what Prince was and she didn't know anything about the royal family. Nobody believes that, right?
Yeah.
Madeline does.
Really?
No, me and Emily just did a whole entire podcast on this. I'm skeptical, but no, I agree with you, Britt, on your point about Harry being. I mean, they both played the victims a lot, but one of the Harry's comments that was really disgusting to me was that he was just tired of having to like smile and shake hands some days. Like he didn't want to get out of bed to do that, and it's
Very
like
work.
it's like, dude, I don't want to get out of bed and have to do these live streams every day, but here I am. You know,
Nobody makes you do live streams every day.
We all have to do our jobs. And
May I remind you, your boss is on this, Madeline.
I'm sorry, your job is being a prince. That's so hard.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I want to make a point that Bethany Frankel made the exact point that Britt just made, which is that you are whining about how half empty your glass is in the middle of a global pandemic where people are out of work. Like, and then Bethany had to delete the tweet and issue an apology. And I think that speaks to, because she got criticism from like TMZ. I think that speaks to how soft the American media is on powerful people and celebrities. And B, I think it's like incredible that we let them get away with whining about their lives in the middle of this. Am I crazy? Am I wrong?
No, I agree. Like when they said, "Oh, this is our most authentic, basic life," as they were in a chicken coop, like in Santa Barbara, like that is not basic for the rest of us. I don't know about you. I mean, I'm in a 2-bedroom apartment right now. And also when Meghan referenced herself as the Little Mermaid. Do you guys remember that part where she said, like, she said, "Oh, you know, the girl falls in love with the prince and she loses her voice." And then at the end of the special, she said something like, "This is the best fairy tale you'll ever see." And it stopped me. I chuckled and thought, like, this is a glimpse, I think, of the stage element of why we're hearing the harassment reports now. Like, I don't know. Something doesn't add up with the story.
Last night, someone posted this old thing on Twitter from when Meghan Markle was trashing Donald Trump. So someone press corps asked him about it, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't really like her either, but I don't really have anything to say other than I wish Harry all the luck in the world."
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna need it.
It's like so funny, and also like that's basically true. Like I think she just seems like a Shakespearean level baddie. Hopefully there won't actually be murder or that level of Shakespearean drama. But you kind of feel like, man, there's a lot going on here and it's not good.
Can I ask Britt, actually, were you a fan of Meghan Markle right when she came on the scene? Like, did you like her right away, or were you immediately kind of skeptical of her?
It was a little too quick for me. Like, I think one of the reports that I put a bit of stock in, because I think this is a normal reaction. One of the reports that I agree with was Prince William allegedly had said to Harry, "Don't you think you're moving a little quick?" I'm paraphrasing here. "Don't you think this is a little fast?" I believe they were engaged in like 10 months. So it caught me by surprise, quite honestly, Emily, to answer your question, because I watched Suits for like a couple seasons. And literally my reaction was like, the sidekick in Suits. Like I was surprised, and I know someone's going to tweet me and be like, "Oh, she's disparaging her career," but she wasn't a big time actress, right? So it was random to me. But I think, when they pushed, hey, it's young love, and she's really into the causes and worked with the UN, I think we all got into the fairy tale aspect. Like I watched the wedding, like, okay, maybe this will work. It was more for me when she married him. I felt like that's when things got really calculated. Like they got what they wanted. And in my humble opinion, not knowing any of these people, I think that they wanted out long before they said they did. Like, I think that was the goal.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. Yeah. What is it about, do you still like Kate Middleton, and what is it about the royal family that you find intriguing as an American? Because Madeline and I were just talking about this on a podcast, and we're not like big royal people, but I kind of do get the thing with Kate Middleton. And I got the Meghan Markle thing at first because she's American and sort of has this interesting fairy tale story. What is it about the royal family that you think is compelling?
I think, well, they always have drama, right? Even if they claim they don't, the drama of it. I think what intrigues me about this is where I think it's a low blow, and you guys can chime in, Harry and Meghan know that the British royal family is not going to respond to it. Like, that's just not what the firm does, ever. You know, I've researched it on my own. I've watched documentaries, and of course, The Crown. We all love The Crown. So they're not going to respond. So last night, I just felt like it was a bit of a punching fight with, you know, the other opponent has their hands tied behind their back. Like, that's not going to happen. But in general, the allure of the royals is, I don't know, like, you're in your work day and you go online and you see people, you distract yourself, and it's the fashion. I like seeing the fashion of Kate Middleton. I really like Kate Middleton. I think, and I've read that she is the queen's favorite in a way that she knows Kate will be a good queen. Like, she stays out of the picture. She shows up to the events she needs to. So I still have a good opinion of her. But again, a claim last night Meghan made that the press didn't treat Kate as badly as they did her. They called Kate Middleton Weighty Katie for 8 years because that's how long she and Prince William dated. They've made fun of her weight. They've called her anorexic. I mean, they've said horrible things, damaging things about her, accused Prince William of cheating. Like, I don't think that was accurate either. And I'd love to know what you guys thought about it. But like, the press has been savage to everybody in the royal family.
Yeah, I think that's very true.
I think that's a really good point, Britt, that Meghan is acting like she's the first person to ever deal with this in the royal family. Like, stuff has had to been going on for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Like, and it's very American of her to come out and say, like, oh my gosh, can you believe this? Like, and expose everybody. She's just kind of like Leroy Jenkins, the whole thing, basically.
Yeah. Seriously. I do think I actually found it believable, the claim that they were asked about their future son at that time, the skin color. I do believe she likely received racist treatment from a courtier elitist group, even if it's not the big name senior royals like the Queen and the King and Prince William, like everybody in that circle. I totally could see that happening with. We saw dozens of press headlines where they were cruel in that way. Like, I remember one article, I don't know if you guys do, that they called Archie, whether at that time he was born or not, something very derogatory. Like, I can look it up while we're talking about this, but like a little monkey or something like that. And that person was fired. Like, there was action taken on it, but there have been racist things said about her in the public eye. So I believe their account of that. But what I have a hard time grappling with is, if you're going to throw a stone like that, I mean, that is a huge boulder you're throwing across the Atlantic. You're not naming names, and that's going to create a lot of confusion. And that's taking a really big shot at your family that I think the royal family should address, at least that aspect.
That's something I struggle with, is that I think Meghan Markle has kind of revealed her personality to be really unappealing as all of this drama has played out. I mean, the situation with her father, which is sad and tragic, and you brought up right away the dig that she took at Kate Middleton, which seemed just wildly unnecessary, totally planned. She just seems kind of vindictive.
Mm-hmm. It came across to me as she wants to be the victim. She really wants Harry and herself to be victims. And while I was watching it, did you guys notice this? I felt like Harry actually was less practiced than she was. Like, he was getting visibly mad. I swear to you, I went up to the TV. I'm like, is he breaking out in a rash? His face started getting really red. He was very tense when he was asked about Charles. And granted, this is damning stuff they're saying. Like, if I had stress relations with my parents and I was talking about it in primetime TV, right? I'm sure you guys too, like, that would tense you up. But I did think she was very calculated. And I thought that he was actually more of a driving force of leaving than I thought he was previously.
Madeline, I remember you had some thoughts about how Harry was in the interview.
I thought that he was more sympathetic than Meghan. I think that you're right, that she's definitely more calculating. I wanted to ask you, though, something about, you said at the beginning, Britt, about how you thought Oprah did a good job. Me and Emily disagree with you completely.
Really?
We thought she just lobbed softballs the whole time. And like you were saying, they were not naming names. They were throwing a lot of big punches. And I feel like we kind of deserved Oprah to maybe be a little bit more serious of an interview. Like if you're going to make those accusations, maybe press them on them, give us some context. Who said that? And I think Oprah was their wedding guest was a little too sympathetic to them.
So I agree. I agree with you guys on that. I think my expectation, what I was trying to say is like, it was so low. Like I was picturing Oprah, like when she had her show, her like giveaways,
Yeah.
and giggling the whole time.
The quality of the interview it was still like a serious tone.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Like I expected her to be much more the Oprah we saw as a talk show host, giggling about their girlfriends. And, I think she shilled something recently for Meghan on Instagram and referred to her as my new friend M. Like that's what I was expecting. Yes. Right. But the quality of the questions I agree with. I think, again, low bar. I think she did have follow-ups I did not expect her to have. Like she brought the follow-up to Harry of like, who said that to you? And he said, I'm uncomfortable telling you. So that at least was fair. But I'm telling you, when Meghan Markle, if that was me as the interviewer and Meghan Markle said, oh, I never Googled the royal family. No way. Are you kidding me?
That's
I Googled like
bold-faced lie.
I've dated. There is no way. And when she said, oh, no one taught me the national anthem, it's like you at that time were a 35-year-old woman. Like you couldn't ask somebody.
Yeah. You were right too about there's so many stories and headlines that don't match up. Like Meghan's stories being off from things she said. I saw something else come out today. Like she was saying like, oh, I didn't know anything about the royals like at all until like I met Harry. And someone else came out today like reminding about a story of like a childhood friend of Meghan's that said she remembered Meghan had Princess Diana's biography like on her bookshelf, stuff like that.
There's a picture too. I don't know what age she was. I believe like a teenager where she's taking a photo outside Buckingham Palace. And at the minimum, you would have an idea of who they are. Watching, she's a couple years older than me or 5 years older than me. So she would have been solidly a teenager when Princess Diana
died. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, everybody at that time, we didn't have the internet. You were watching the procession. Like that was like off the bat, she was inauthentic to me.
And that's something that me and Emily talked about on our podcast, which you should all go listen to, was I think part of Meghan's play here is she wants to be as beloved as Princess Diana was. That's kind of like her goal here. And there's a lot of comparisons you can see, like the mental health thing. And obviously Diana was her husband's mom. So like, of course she wants to kind of like be that icon in the firm or in the monarchy. And so I think that's kind of part of her play here.
Sure. I think she's frustrated. I think that's a good point. I think she's frustrated that she doesn't get that treatment and that she isn't sort of received like Princess Diana was by a lot of people. Although I think we also kind of tend to forget that Princess Diana had moments in her own career as royal that were controversial and where she was not as like well liked as she was after her death and is now. And for whatever reason, but we sort of forget that part of Princess Diana's personal history. But I think Meghan is frustrated by it. And Britt said something important, which is that Meghan Markle seems to intentionally cast herself as a victim. And I think that says something really important about our culture right now, that you are rewarded, right? Like part of her public relations strategy, I absolutely think, is to talk about how she's been victimized. And I think the reason for that, from a public relations standpoint, is it's how you get positive press. Mm-hmm. It's how you get sympathy from People magazine. It's how you get sympathy from Oprah on a CBS primetime interview. And that says something about our culture incentivizing victimhood.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. It's like I almost feel like when the two of them sort of fade in the headlines, and by the way, I think that they push a lot. They've hired really expensive PR people. Like I think they push constant stories about themselves that goes against we just want privacy. Like if you really wanted privacy, even in LA and the outskirts where they went to, you can find it. There are plenty of billionaire wealthy people that just quietly do their thing. But it's been striking that whenever she's had negative press, in the court battle against the Daily Mail, when it was revealed through their attorneys that she basically helped the authors of Finding Freedom like write everything, even though she publicly told everyone Harry and I had nothing to do with it. That's where like the lies add up for me. And when she got negative press for that, then she came forward with her miscarriage, which, by the way, I mean, I think that's brave for any woman to talk about their health. And so I'm not going at that particularly.
And suicide as well, as she mentioned last night.
Suicide last night. And again, people do need awareness for these things, but it's always like, I don't know, it's always timed with the opportunity to build her brand. So when Oprah asked them, are you sure this, you know, a lot of people think you guys always just wanted to build this brand. I really watched her facial expressions and it just was telling, you guys. I think when the most she overreacted was questions about that. And I think usually when you're guilty at things in life, I know certainly myself, when you know something's bad, you're going to like freak out more, right? Which I thought was interesting. And I also thought it was interesting that I'm a crier. I'm a crier. If those things were being said about my soon-to-be or my husband's family, like in regards to my child, about his skin color, even talking about that would make me tear up. Like that, I would be very emotional. She had no emotion discussing that, but she did have emotion discussing herself and her problems for herself, which I'm not like the emotional regulator here, but I thought that was weird.
Yeah. I think there is something like very cool about her sometimes, which is interesting because she also is divulging so many personal details very purposefully. It's a strange contrast. Yeah.
And I don't know. I also didn't like the way she said things like, oh, I wrote letters to everybody. And she was so informal about an institution. She really only was around for 2 years solidly. And then before that, maybe a year dating Harry. You would have thought by the way she was talking, I don't know how you guys felt, like she was Kate Middleton, like she had been around Harry for 20 years.
That's a good point.
So that was weird. That was weird to me. Yeah. So I also announcing the gender of their daughter during the interview, I thought was different, right?
It's a great way to get positive headlines, or at least neutral headlines, right?
Sure, exactly. And I'm sure you read the stipulations they had for this interview for whatever network got it, which was like nothing can be edited a certain way. We have final approval. Certain commercials can't run in it. Like they had all these stipulations that, you know, two people wanting to tell their truth shouldn't necessarily have, in my opinion. I don't know.
It's a sign that, like, whereas some people want to interpret this very charitably as just this effort for authenticity, then them revealing their truths and telling their stories, they are monetizing this. Like, this is very much about the business of Harry and Meghan. This is not merely about them sort of like getting personal and getting real.
Yeah. And I wondered last night, did they ever plan fully to do this interview? Or did the pandemic that happened right during the start of Megxit, that took away Met Galas, that took away Oscar red carpets, that took away all these opportunities for them to try to become Hollywood celebrities? I wondered last night if this was a play, because it's their last opportunity now that the 1 year's up to use the royal thing. And if they don't care about the royals, question for you, Emily, if they don't care about it, then why do they still go by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex if they're living in America?
No, it's 100% true. And this is the thing, like they do. There was a tweet that said, I think it was from Rosanna Arquette, who was like, they walked away from everything. Like Harry walked away from everything for this. Like, absolutely not. That is not at all what happened. He walked into a situation where they can still leverage all of the fame and the money of being royal without any of the responsibilities, without any of the restrictions that would force them to sort of like, subjugate the self for the country and the family. They walked away from all of that into wealth and fame and total flexibility for whatever they're doing.
I mean, they're steps away from the beach. I think Harry upgraded big time from where he's living. And also, I saw there's like an odds, and I thought this last night. I would bet good money that they name their first child Diana, or not, for their daughter Diana, because everything, not just Meghan having this complex about similarities, like Harry has that too. When he was talking about their tour and how, do you notice he slipped wool and there was jealousy of her? It's like, wait, we beat this drum once with Diana. It felt weird, Emily. I don't remember people glowing about Meghan on that trip. Like, that was a weird thing.
I know it does feel weird. And I also I was talking to Madeline about this. Like, I do understand why women found Meghan Markle very appealing at first. And I just wonder what you think about after this interview. I think the same people who liked Meghan Markle will continue to like Meghan Markle, but I also just have such a difficult time understanding how people continue to interpret her behavior as that of like a sympathetic person, right? Like, to me, she just seems so obviously like calculating, and I have a time, right? So like, why do people still like her?
I think that they knew the base of audience that they can get at this point in America. Like, that's what last night felt like, a sales pitch of a brand that isn't great for us. A lot of people hate us. Forget the UK. They're never going to like us again. So how can we market ourselves for more deals in the States to certain people? And it just sort of felt like they know, okay, race relations, the mental health, like there was just a lot of cards they were pulling out to get that audience. And I'm not diminishing if those things truly did happen. They're bad, they're horrible. But it's like, don't you want the rest of the discussion? It's just one person like telling you, two people telling you these things. I'm not going to say I don't trust it. I just would like more verification. I'd like more voices in the mix. But like, I didn't really like her at first, Emily. I thought, honestly, what? Like, Prince Harry could probably do better or find, like, I was expecting more of like a UK girl. And maybe that's why Meghan had appealed to people, because she was an outsider. I don't know. But I think from the start, I never really saw their union like magically as everybody else did.
Yeah. And again, like, I didn't either. I understood why people did. I want to get your perspective on why this is worth talking about and caring about, because that's a ton of the comments that we've received over the course of this conversation is like, who cares? What is the point in having this discussion? What is the point in paying attention to these people? What's your argument for why it's important to pay attention to them and this is kind of a leading question but why it's important to push back on some of their BS?
I think that's what's going to happen next. I think why people are interested is because we love drama. That's why there's tabloids in the grocery market still, with magazines dying. Like, that'll happen. We love drama. It's also setting the stage for what they do next. And quite honestly, maybe our commenters agree or disagree. I think people are sick of these two. So I think it was like, okay, what campaign are we going to see next? What's going to be shoved at us next from these two? And I think there's a bit of cultural reverence for the Queen. And nobody has gone at the Queen as much as these two have. Yes, Diana did in 1995 in that explosive interview. But correct me if I'm wrong, I thought this was even worse. Meghan ended that interview saying straight up, I regret believing they would ever protect me. Yes. How do you, like, even if you don't get along, wouldn't there be like Christmas time, like family dinners, and they'd fly once a year too?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
And it wasn't just like, they had a lot of specific things to say about individual members of the family, both
Yes.
of them. And they were both like flattering to the Queen, obviously, but like from Kate to William to Harry's father, they really didn't spare anybody. And this is in the most public platform imaginable. And they're spilling all the details of their personal relationships and then saying, well, we hope it gets better. How on earth is it going to get better when you're airing all of your dirty laundry in a primetime interview?
First of all, as Prince Philip is in the hospital, right? And so that wasn't happening when they taped this. This was taped 6 weeks ago. But they didn't make any changes to when it was airing. Perhaps they couldn't once Oprah had it and had finished the interview. But I think they didn't attack the Queen because that would have been really bad. Like that, I mean, Britons just love the Queen, and she can, in a second, move. I think it's a parliamentary decision too, but move to take the Duke and Duchess titles away that she gave them. And I just think they know that that would not play well. So I don't even look at that, to what you're saying, as they were so genuinely loved by the Queen. I looked at it more as like calculating. They know they can't attack her. So they went after other people. And again, I don't know, but I thought Harry definitely gave the impression that it was either Prince Charles, his father, or Prince William, his brother, that were the baby skin tone possible people.
Right.
That was what I thought.
Yeah, it seemed really personal.
Yeah, like somebody very close to him had to have said that. I wonder in Meghan's situation, because yes, there are the UK press is bad. But if you're living that high life where all you do is really go to openings of hospitals and you shake hands and it's a pretty plush life, right? Maybe you don't have much of an individual voice as a royal, but it's a nice life. At what point does she get sick of that? That's what's odd to me, because she was only there for 2 years as his wife. Like,
that's a really good point.
I mean, I don't know. And I don't know what they're going to do next, but I think it was juicy. It was salacious. We all wanted to see. But I'm actually more interested in like how the Queen could have responded. But I don't think we'll get that.
How do you think it was received by the Queen? Like, if you had to guess, do you think this was like, I mean, Ben Shapiro had an interesting tweet. I want to pull it up because...
So was Megyn Kelly's, but I know both were getting a lot of pushback for it today.
Yeah, Megyn Kelly got a ton of pushback for making really good points about their attitude of entitlement, which again, it's like, if you get attacked for saying that in the United States, it's just really unbelievable how there's this like, our media is so protective of powerful people now.
Yeah, I did. I saw those two though, and the New York Post, an op-ed that said like her interview was bull or something. And I read it and it was pretty spot on too. But yeah, what did Shapiro say?
So Ben tweeted, "Imagine being Prince Philip, fighting Nazis, helping preside over the UK during the Cold War and the economic struggles of the 1970s, and now watching your spoiled grandson basically call the institution to which you have silently devoted your life a vile repository of bigotry." Pretty good metaphor for Western society, to be honest. And it's hard to disagree with that, except it's really sad and also kind of hard to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, this whole past week, Emily, I just kept thinking, what if Prince Philip took a turn for the worse? Like, what would they do? Would they just still have this interview air or delay it by a couple weeks? Like, I think I've been reading between the lines with it, and you can listen to them, which we did last night. You can watch them, and you can see their actions, and they don't really align with this image they're trying to create. I wish there would be more consequence. I wish the royal family would say more. But what do you think? Do you think there's going to be much interaction with them anymore?
I mean, if I were the royal family, I mean, yes, their PR people are still going to have to obsessively track and monitor what they're doing. But if I were Prince William, Kate Middleton, the Queen, I would want absolutely nothing to do with these people, right? Like, I mean, they're trashing you on, the global stage for their own, like you said, like for their own, whenever they need publicity, they air the dirty laundry. And that's just really gross.
Yeah. And I kept thinking that. I kept thinking, I can understand a bombardment of horrible press would be hard. There's stuff that she's gone through publicly, whether by her fault or not. I get that would be psychologically hard. And again, any racist comments should not be tolerated. And, hey, maybe that's why we won the war. And not that our country is perfect, but we're over here. So I think those things are bad. And I would agree with Meghan Markle perhaps on that. But everything else I just thought was tacky. Like, you're throwing your family or your husband's family under the bus. And Harry had so much anger and vitriol towards them. I just kept thinking, like, what pushed him to that point? Because as Oprah asked him, he said he was fine with it all until Meghan came along. So I don't get it.
Yeah. I don't either. I think it's like, I understand that it would be really difficult to be royal, like psychologically. It's something that you kind of have to be accustomed to and you really have to acclimate to and deal with and learn how to deal with. I understand that fully. But at the same time, that's a trade-off, right? Like it also comes with all of the riches you can imagine, all of the privilege that you can possibly imagine as a human being. And what Harry and Meghan did is so interesting because they traded all of the responsibilities for that and lost nothing because of it, except for one thing, and that's a healthy relationship with their family. And I think that speaks to what they actually value.
Absolutely. And also when Meghan said, I gave up everything, I left my career for this, she looked pretty happy wearing designer clothes after designer clothes every day. I mean, call me crazy. I think going to Kensington Palace, the British royal family, is a bit of an upgrade from a USA Network TV show. So yes, he had a life before she had a career, but it wasn't like an exactly flourishing career. So that argument she made and Harry made together was a bit odd. And what also struck me as weird is he said there was talks with the family about whether she should keep acting. I'm assuming he meant when they were dating, like for the costs of protecting her. They definitely went in. That's another thing of hypocrisy. They went in on the security detail, but it's actually like decrees passed by the royal family. Like Queen Elizabeth passed, let's say ordinance, for lack of a better word that I know in the UK. In 2013, she passed something that said that all of Prince William's children could get security detail. It used to just be the eldest, and that's because he's the heir. He's going to be king, and it goes through his line of descent. But she made it so not just George, but all of his kids will get security. So when Meghan was complaining about that and insinuating it was because of the child's race, that's not accurate. It perhaps when she passes away and Prince Charles is made king, then Archie and their future daughter will be grandchildren, but great-grandchildren do not get security. So like, it's just a factual nuance where it didn't add up to what she was saying. She wanted America to believe that Archie did not get security protection because of her race and because they left the royal family, but that's not how it goes. It's like a whole system there. So again, just that the half-truths didn't add up.
I think what gets us so fired up about this entire situation is that they're being treated, and this applies to so many narratives, but they're being treated not neutrally by our press in America. They're being treated favorably. And they are doing so many things that deserve skepticism. And so like, that's, I think from my perspective, what is really irritating. Like I'm less irritated that there's a spoiled brat destroying the British monarchy as I am that like our elites are boosting them and treating them without any skepticism and letting them like launder these like stupid lies and often like weird arguments without getting skepticism from the press. I don't know about you, but that's like what actually makes me really annoyed by this.
I agree. And that you said it. That's done so often. Like even Oprah Winfrey doing this interview, how many pictures have been dug up of her with Harvey Weinstein at events, hugging him, being chummy with him? I do believe Prince Andrew needs to be thoroughly investigated for his sex trafficking connection and allegations of sex with minors in connection to Jeffrey Epstein. I do not believe he's agreed to cooperate with the FBI, but like, yes, when people say, well, how can you just like Meghan Markle so much, but you don't care about that? I think most Americans say like, no, we also care about that. Like that two things can be right at once here. But to your point, I think what's more entertaining for Americans and what we find more likable is like, the Queen's late sister who liked to party and liked to booze it up and was always a spitfire in what she was saying. And when she complained about the monarchy, it's restricting me in that I have to like act a certain way all the time. Harry and Meghan, their complaints are it's restricting us from just doing whatever we want. And we should still get all the titles and accolades from being royals. And I disagreed with their assessment last night. You did walk away. You can't have the best of both worlds. Like Meghan tried to point out, oh, there's a couple other royals who do that. And it's like, well, that wasn't what you guys were given. That's not what you agreed and married into. And I don't know. Wouldn't you just love the queen to have like a burn book?
Oh, she does.
She definitely does. But yeah, I wish there was a little more shade, but she won't ever, obviously, Prince William and Kate Middleton just won't ever say, like, that's what annoys me is like, I feel like the voices that could at least go into the room with Harry and Meghan, we won't ever hear.
Right. And they won't be put up on a pedestal by the press either.
Yeah. And when people say, oh, the allegations of her bullying and harassment are coming out now because of the interview, that's not true, because that happened in 2018. The palace didn't do anything. From what I've read and understand, they tried to protect Meghan, but it's a huge liability in that the fact they didn't do anything. So they're covering their bases legally. I'm sure there was a bit of timing connected to this, but I don't like the fact of, oh, this was just a made up thing. She was a nice co-star. She's a nice friend. Well, there's plenty of people who are nice, but still can be bullies, right? Like just because someone is nice to you or me doesn't mean behind our back to another person they don't deem as worthy, they're not rude to. I kind of hate that sentiment for anyone. Like, oh, they're such a good friend. It's like, well, the two don't go together, you know? So I'm interested to see what happens with the palace's investigation. And I'm also interested to see, Emily, like what these two try to do now. And that's my question to anyone watching. Like, what is their brand? We talk about their brand and I can't decide whether it's like a knockoff wannabe Gwyneth Paltrow goop meets like philanthropy. Like, I don't get it.
How dare you say that about Queen Gwyneth? Gwyneth is the real queen here.
I'm with that. We need her candles.
Yes. Okay. Well, maybe not the candle or the egg. That's amazing. Well, so I can't understand. I think their brand is a sort of like vague wokeness and this faux selflessness. Like, I think that's what they want to set their brand as, like being these public servants instead of like spoiled royals. Like that's, I think, what they want their brand to be. And I just think like at least half of the public, if not more, is not buying that for a second.
No, and even if they somehow manage to make that their brand in LA, they're going to be maybe at dinner parties with like wealthy businessmen and women. It's not going to be the celebrity factor that they want, right? That's like, that identity comes with connections that are just a different class of people than hanging out with the Kardashians in Beverly Hills, which I feel like is what Meghan wants. She wants the best of like every world. And I don't know.
What she wants to have her cake and eat it too. And I know that sounds cheesy, but that's exactly what they get to do in America. They get all of the wealth and all of the fame, and they also get to say whatever they want, whenever they want. And that's like the best of both worlds. And they're not sacrificing anything except for a good relationship with their family, which again, I think is very telling.
Yeah. And I think when you asked me what my thoughts were on the Queen, I think she is very angry about it, because while I'm going to call them the Markles, even though Prince Harry is the more famous one. The Markles tried to tiptoe around and compliment her. Everything the Queen is about is service over yourself, the firm over yourself. And even if they were nice to her, they threw proverbial bombs on every other senior royal. Prince Charles, Prince William, Kate Middleton. Those people are going to be king and queen. So I think she's probably very angry about it. But I don't know. When do you think the coverage of them stops as much as it's been? Like, when can we just get no Harry and Meghan for a while?
They have to be careful. I mean, there's an interesting point made about Dolly Parton recently, and that like everybody loves Dolly Parton. She's having like another moment, but she actually herself has been personally worried about oversaturation.
Yes.
And in this climate where everything is controversial, and even our beloved icons of our pop culture can be toppled at the whim of a social media mob, celebrities have to be really, really careful. And I think they do risk oversaturation. I think the American public isn't as sympathetic to them as the media is. And when the media sort of catches wind of that, it's kind of a house of cards, and it'll slowly fall, but because there is so much sympathy for them in the media, and because they are so cozy with so many people in the media, like Oprah, great example right there, I think they're always going to have some measure of positive press baked into their brand. But at the same time, I do think they are really risking oversaturation right now.
Yeah, and it would be one thing too if they stated in the interview their mission of what they're actually doing. I get that the pandemic is hard for everybody in every career to do anything right now, but it's just like, hey, we slapped Archwell on a website, and we're gonna help people, and that's what we're about. And I just don't see it. Meanwhile, I do like the timing of the Queen on Commonwealth Day, like right before their recording aired. All the other royals who are still working were on Zooms. We're actually doing the servant part of it. You can't be a public servant if your aim is to be a public celebrity. And I think that's really what Queen Elizabeth has always said in her letters back to the pair. And I agree with her.
Well, and look at what they're doing. I mean, in Hollywood, they have deals with Netflix and Spotify. Like, their priorities are about media, not about, like, that's they're what they're pursuing are media deals. They aren't pursuing like creating, their own version of like the Clinton Foundation. Like, they're actually like working on media. They want to have TV shows and documentaries and podcasts. And as much as it pains me to admit this, podcasting and live streaming is not a public service.
No, I know. As I schedule a meeting for my own podcast one day. No, that's exactly it. And what annoys me about that, this is the industry we're in. And that doesn't mean you have to be good at creating a documentary or a movie or a television show. But it's like, what they're going to be doing with their Netflix deal, I read a critic slam them in saying when that Spotify deal was announced. So basically, they're going to make the boring programming nobody on Netflix watches, like those random weird documentaries you just flash through. Like right now, I think it's The Last Samurai on Netflix. Like maybe some people will like it. I liked a lot of documentaries, but they're not, for HBO Sports, I used to love back in the day. Like they were really good at that. E60,
The Last Dance.
30, The Last Dance. Like these people have spent their careers creating documentaries and producing content that is very expensive and takes a lot of time to create. And so to your point about the two of them, it's like, what experience does Prince Harry have in creating documentaries? Like, I don't know. You know what, Emily, if they make great stuff, I will eat my words. But that's where my questions lie.
No, and I think this is a great place to end because at the end of the day, I actually just think they're boring. And like not to say the royals are boring because I think the drama is really juicy, but I think Meghan Markle is just like a basic American millennial. At the end of the day, like I don't care what she's putting in a documentary because it would be just like a AP government project that my classmate came up with in 2011.
Yeah, and in the long game, especially, and it'll be a while, but when Kate becomes queen and Prince William's king, I just think especially then it's sort of going to be like Meghan and Harry who, and I think that's going to eat at them that they aren't on the throne. And so the royals know what they're doing. They're playing the long game. But I was shocked at how many attacks that the pair directed towards their family last night.
No, and I agree. And I think that gets to a point you made earlier about how they are sort of constantly irked that Kate and William are more sympathetic and do get more positive press. I think that's totally true going forward, is that like Kate and William are going to continue to overshadow them in public opinion, at least. And that'll only accelerate when they take the throne.
Yeah. So anytime next time ask me, all my good friends are like, wow, you are really into the royals. That last night and now today, it's juicy. I like it.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you. And we're getting a lot of positive comments here. So I would just recommend everybody subscribe while you're here. Please subscribe. And a big thank you to Britt for taking the time out of her day to come chat about Meghan Markle with us.
Thank you. I'll talk soon.
See you, Britt. See you next time, everyone.